Nathan Hill, who's the writer-director of his latest film, a rather intriguing film called I Portrait. And it's my great pleasure to have Nathan on the line now. Nathan, welcome to Movie Metropolis.
Peter, thanks for having me again. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. Now, I gather this film was shot about a couple of years ago, and what was the inspiration behind this sort of semi-menage-a-trois romantic drama?
Yeah, look, you're right. It was shot kind of and finished in post all the way up to COVID lockdown. And like so many filmmakers, you know, they've had to have the burden of waiting for COVID to pass, which was really about 12 months for the local industry. And now here we are. But the premise of the film, I should say, the inspiration, actually came from Natalie Heslop, who's one of the lead actors in the film. And we had been talking about stories, and she sort of hit me with this one that went back to her childhood, and it just ignited, I guess, the beginnings of a screenplay that I began to write, and we sort of talked back and forth, and then I developed it with screenwriting friends of mine, and a year later we had a feature script.
Wow, what a process. And apart from Natalie and yourself in the film, you've got some other interesting actors there, Sienna, Stass and Damon Hunter and so on. In putting together your cast, was that a quick and easy process?
This was quite an easy one from the perspective that I had kind of gathered talent that I wanted to work with for a couple of years prior, and it was kind of, I guess, a treat for me to kind of place these people that I believe are really good talent into this film and do them justice. So I didn't need to audition necessarily for this one. It was almost a straight casting, which made it a lot easier because, you know, sometimes the auditioning process can be very long and gated, and sometimes you can't even find the person for the character. So this was really a chance of me gathering my clan and people that I had sort of saved on my dossier, let's say, for a couple of years, and it was time to kind of unleash. Sienna had written to me prior, wanting to be in films earlier, and this was a great opportunity for me to cast her because I'd always wanted to work with her, and now I had the chance. So it was a little bit of a homecoming, and really just a chance to work with great people that I admire. Obviously, Damon Hunter and his mother, Loraine, Fabb. Grace Chin's in there, who's another great actress working in Sydney at the moment. And my good buddy, as always, Simay Argento.
Okay, well done on that. And of course, we should mention, Nathan, you are an independent filmmaker and producer, so you don't rely on funding at all, do you?
Yeah, look, it's always been the left field, if you want to call it the left path. I mean, it's kind of, it's like the guys who go to university. You've got the, you know, one people going to uni and the other guy's going to, you know, to TAFE. And I guess I'm kind of the latter. I've always looked at it from a slightly different angle as far as funding goes. You know, you really are on your own when you set out to make your own film. And let's not forget, no one's asking you to do it. You've got to have enough passion to do it yourself and see it through to the end. And unfortunately, a lot of indie filmmakers, you know, they don't get that far. They may shoot it and then they've run out of gas. For me, I've been able to get momentum because I've done so many of them now. It almost feels, you know, sort of strange if I'm not doing them. But, you know, we're talking crowdfunding, you know, things like Kickstarter that I've used once in the past, private funding, sponsorship. We got lucky on this film because I had an associate producer that had worked on a big horror film called Pernicious, which is a Hollywood horror film, a Thai producer, and she came to Melbourne wanting to make a film, and no one would listen to her. And I kind of snatched her up and said, wow, well, you know, I'm here and I've got an opportunity, and so we collaborated. So a lot of the time it's in the timing as well.
Oh, well, again, well done on being able to complete that. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the story without, of course, revealing too much that happens later. But it is an interesting, twisting sort of relationship drama with some other sort of slightly surreal aspects about painting, about nightmares, and so on. So in developing the script that Natalie, as you say, presented the story to you, what were the challenges you faced in sort of getting that screenplay right?
I think I had to go back into the genre itself and have a look at, obviously, Hitchcock and a lot of Polanski and sort of rediscover my passion or love for the genre. I mean, I've always been walking along the tightrope, let's say, of, either horror or thrillers, either side. And so it was really just trying to rediscover the passion and use the normal mechanics to write a screenplay that I normally would. I mean, my films have what I call the 9 ingredients to make them work for my particular genre and style. This film had about 7 of those elements. But I liken it to a TV movie. Like, when you watch it, it's not the big, hoo-ha, let's say, of Revenge of the Guaylo, which is a film I've done, which is quite sort of hyper-realistic. This is a lot more in the sort of TV drama genre, yep, which is also very easy to shoot. And I had just come off co-producing Cult Girls, which was very complicated, very grandiose, and so I wanted to, from the next film at least that I was working on or collaborating on, I wanted to go back to drama and take baby steps back towards perhaps a grandier film following.
Okay, very interesting. And of course, it's a reasonably frank sort of tale. There's a bit of nudity in the film, and there's a bit of how shall we say, a bit of a thriller element and so on. So a bit of choreography and all that, because I assume you use the one camera?
No, sometimes there were multicam. I mean, I always have a core DOT. I try to use whatever equipment is, modern or current at the time. If we go backwards, let's say, now it's black magic. Before that, it was red. Before that, it was something else. So I'm always trying to stay current. But I mean, I've shot a scene recently that 3 cameras. So it depends on the scene. It really depends on the scene, the environment, and what you're shooting. And I like to do things economically. So say, for example, I've got a setup that has 2 actors speaking alone. I may only need 1 camera that day. It really just depends on the dynamics. But yes, I mean, Natalie did have some nudity. She had she was Miss October in Playboy magazine the year before, and she was quite comfortable with that. And it sort of, the script did call for that. It was really, sort of borderline erotic thriller. I mean, you know me, I love my Michael Douglas films, Basic Instinct, Disclosure, Fatal Attraction. That's really where my mind is at. And it was certainly another one of those types of films. And again, another, I guess what you would say, one of the hill ingredients for a cult genre film, So yeah, but revisiting all the old thrillers and then I guess bringing it back into a modern day sense. So, but you're right, it did have a lot of dreamlike sequences that were probably inspired by my love of films like Rosemary's Baby, where it's very abstract and you're not quite sure from scene to scene whose actual reality it is. And I find that is instrumental to build suspense, particularly in low budget, almost like a David Lynch film, where you're not trying to purposely confuse the audience, but you're asking questions rather than telling them the answer.
Right.
And I just find that's really good in the thrillers.
Yep. Exactly. In terms of locations, I think I recognise Williamstown and early in the film, and so there's some nice Melbourne-based locations, and the house that you used, which is where a lot of the film is set, is it yours or is it someone else's? Or
No, it's definitely not mine. And something that I learned in film school was that you never ever shoot in your own home, and it's for a range of reasons. One, you may have a sloppy art department that puts too many nails in your wall. But also you need to separate. You would never have, and you wouldn't want to shoot a horror film in your own home. You can summon up, directors are quite often like a warlock. You don't want to drum up, any bad spirits. So no, that was a private location that I hired. Most of the locations that I use, it's a good question though, Pete. I do love using a real environment if I can. I would actually prefer that over a studio or dressing a studio. Obviously, sometimes it has to be done depending on the sound. But if I can get away with it, I'd much rather use a real place. So, as you said, you'll see me, floating around to different environments. We're in a photography studio 1 minute, then we're on a boat in the Yarra, then we're back at the house, then we're at an agency. We move all over Melbourne, and that's what I've always tried to do as well, is showcase Melbourne CBD, because it's beautiful to look at. I mean, I still think we're really underused in this sense.
Oh, fair comment. And I like the film within a film sort of aspect, where you had this confrontation scene, which I thought was going to become really nasty. Interesting scene.
Yes, I know the one you're talking about, without letting out too many spoilers. I mean, the only thing I could compare it to is my experience when I watched Easy Rider. I was watching a film that I thought was going down one path, and I had no idea that it was going to have this horrific twist. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with this. I think if people can get through to the end, they'll be very shocked and surprised at what actually happens in this movie. And I think it's memorable.
Yes, exactly. No spoilers here. All right. Very, very good. Now, the other thing that intrigued me is the use of songs and music.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be quite prominent in the film.
I'm so glad that you raised that, because the intro was actually inspired by American Gigolo, believe it or not. And the car driving sequence, Richard Gere in a sports car. I mean, I've almost mimicked it. It's the same thing Tarantino did in Jackie Brown. I mean, it's the opening as a graduate. I mean, I'm kind of copycat in that opening. But it also sets the tone. But the song we've got there is Yesterday's Tomorrow's by Jane Badler, who's obviously a good friend of mine that we've worked on several films. I thought it was a great way to open the film. I had copyright to that song, and I wanted to kick it off with a bang. Plus, I'd just come off Cold Girls with her, so this was kind of an ebb and flow. But then, the theme song, which is, probably in the climax, is by Leslie Lawrence, which is her song Rain, which is an amazing song, spellbinding song. Raised hairs on necks of everybody that was on set that day. Quite memorable. I would consider it her best song that she's ever done. And as soon as I heard it, I had to put it in the movie. And Leslie goes, she's from New York, same as Jane, and she goes right back to acting with Robert De Niro in a film called Night in the City. I mean, she's been around for a long, long, long time, and we've become very good friends. I've known her probably now for more than a decade. She lives in Melbourne, and we've collaborated in several movies, and she's just amazing. And then we closed the film with Secret Smiles by Billy Katt, who is, people when I was as an actor, his name is William Katt, who's actually my for-real mentor in real life, my film mentor. And he's obviously old school Hollywood, and he was in the TV show Greatest American Hero.
Yeah.
His mother was in Perry Mason, so really old school Hollywood. William even auditioned for the original Luke Skywalker. It was him and Kurt Russell that were the runner-ups.
Wow.
So yeah, and he did some music during the 80s. There's a lot of them did back during that era. And some of his songs really blew me away. In fact, when I first heard Secret Smiles, I didn't know it was him. I loved the song, and then I found out it was his because it was Billy Katt, whereas I've always known him as William. So I had to go back and then look at the album cover and go, oh my God, it's my mentor. So we went and got permission. So it's really, it's an opening and a central part, and then a close with music that's all telling a story and playing, as you said, a very integral part to the drama and the tone of the film.
Excellent. Okay, well done that you've been able to put all that together. Now, it's good to see that Bounty Films are releasing the film, because distribution is always an issue.
Oh, absolutely. And Les from Bounty and I became friends before COVID, and I had always wanted to do a film with him and with Bounty, and also locally, because as you know, most of my stuff has been US based. So to find a local distro that wasn't one of the others that you would typically go to was a real treat. I mean, he's happy. I spoke to him this morning. We've had 4K hits on just the trailer overnight, which is quite good, which is generic, which is great. So it's got some traction, and we're very positive. So, I mean, he's been able to get it up on Google and YouTube and Vimeo and Microsoft and DirecTV, Vudu and Prime, and we're also doing a special edition DVD in a couple of weeks that'll be available online. Look, wrapped, really, really happy with Bounty, and, they're still alive, and it's amazing to be doing that in Melbourne, because it's not typically something I would do, normally.
Okay, that's great. And with the rise of all of these proliferation of these streaming services, that at least gives you an opportunity to have the film seen in different platforms, in different avenues. So,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, if you don't have, let's say, Google and Prime as a minimum, you're not really a player. I mean, the next step would be Netflix, Foxtel, etc. But I mean, I still love my physical media. I always do that, for the fans or for people like myself that still love the archives. I'm very sentimental when it comes to hard copy.
Yes.
And I'm glad I can still do it. In fact, there's a brilliant commentary on there with Sienna and a second commentary with Natalie. If anyone sort of wants to check those out. Vimeo is interesting though, because you can get special features on Vimeo, which I wasn't aware of, which is great because I used to think it was only on the DVDs and Blu-rays. But yeah, disc, as we know, it's something of the past. I mean, certainly millennials aren't going to buy discs. I mean, I heard a funny story the other day. Someone pulled out a DVD to an 18-year-old and they didn't know what it was. Definitely streaming is the way to go. And you've got to have a distributor that has, for example, the ones I mentioned, minimum to really even be a player. Otherwise, I guess your only option here would be Ozflix. Ozflix will take any Australian feature film that's ever been made, and that's great, and it's a really nice home for the film.
Yep.
But without those, your kind of movie's dead. You've got to keep it alive as a filmmaker, as a producer. That's really your job, is to get it out to the market at maximum capacity. And it's much easier now, I've heard, because full-length film means you can probably get it somewhere. There'll be an audience somewhere. Whereas, I suppose when we went back 10 years ago, it just wasn't the case. It was a very different system. And it's amazing how fast technology has moved in the last decade. Like, it's almost too much to fathom. It's ridiculous how fast it's moved.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And so, Nathan, would I be right in saying this is your 9th film? And I really...
Correct.
Yeah, and I really admire your tenacity that you're able to keep going and make these films.
Pete, I really appreciate that. I think, as we were saying before, it's really it's become almost the norm. The haters will probably, hopefully now, they'll be over-hating on me because I've kept going.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm actually, as we speak, shooting my 10th.
Tell me more about it. Yeah.
Well, I'm halfway through production at the moment, and in typical NHP fashion, I've discovered some new blood, because that's what I really love to do, is promote people that I believe have the X factor, that haven't had the opportunities for whatever reason, and I guess because that's where I've come from. I've always felt like I'm somebody that when I started out found it very hard, to have a voice, and I try to, in my work, help other artists along the path, and that's how I would like to be remembered. In fact, is for putting people on the map, even when nobody else would.
Okay, and is your 10th film a similar genre, or is it a bit different?
If I look back now, do you mean the new one?
The new one, yeah.
The new one's really supposed to be an exclamation mark because it's the 10th. So it's supposed to have really a little bit of everything, to be honest. So hopefully people will enjoy it.
Okay. Does it have a title?
No, untitled at the moment, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. That's all right. I wanted to see how much you were prepared to reveal, so that's fine.
Well, I'm 50% of the way through the shoot, which is quite amazing, and I didn't think that I'd even get this far because, obviously we were still in COVID, late last year, and then we had that second wave, and I thought if I can start filming around Christmas time and there's no lockdown, then I'll do it. And luckily there wasn't a lockdown at that time, so I started it, and I thought, okay, well, the universe is going to let me shoot this one, so I'll get it done. But there has been a bit of an urgency about this one. I almost feel like I need to get it shot in case the planet goes wonky again.
Yeah.
It's always, I don't know how you feel, what your take on that is, but I kind of feel now every day is kind of, go and grab it by the horns and do the best you can, because you don't know how many days are left. That's kind of how it feels, just with the chaos of the world. I've also heard from a lot of people that Australia is almost, a world of its own, because when you look at the rest of the world, they're in a lot of turmoil, and we have it very easy here compared to a lot of other countries.
Yes.
So, there's no excuses, I think, for indie filmmakers. If they've got movies, they better make them now while they can, before it's too late, Pete. You never know.
You never know, although hopefully with the vaccines being rolled out, that might help things along.
Let's hope, yeah.
Let's hope. All right. Look, Nathan, great talking to you. And just quick final question. Have you seen any other film or streaming film or TV show or anything of late that has impressed you?
Absolutely, Peter. And I'm going to say huge thumbs up, 5 stars for Cobra Kai on Netflix. The continuation of the Karate Kid saga. It's a phenomenal TV series that I've watched now. There's 3 seasons, and I reckon I've watched them 3 times over. Incredible acting with William Zabka and Ralph Macchio. It's just like the original films. It's got the same essence and feeling as what the original films did when I watched them as a child, and it's a phenomenal series.
Okay. Yes, I've heard a few people mention that, so I must try and catch up with it if I ever get a chance with everything else I have to see. Look, Nathan, congratulations on iPortrait, now available on various streaming platforms courtesy of Bounty Films. And we've been speaking to writer-director Nathan Hill about his film iPortrait. Nathan, as always, good to talk to you.
Thanks very much, Peter.
All the best, and wish you well with your 10th feature.
Maybe I'll talk to you down the track when I get to that one.
Absolutely. That's definitely on the cards.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks a lot, Nathan. All the best. Okay.
You too, my friend.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.